All right, guys, I had an idea for a video because in the cupboard behind me, well, in front of me, behind you actually, which I'm about to show you, is something I saw that I forgot I had, which made me want to do a video. So let's take a look at that. So I opened this cupboard, and in this cupboard is a brand new set of Chicago cutlery knives that we never used, because these were given to us and left to us by the same gentleman that passed away and left us the dog that we have, Cayenne. And they've never been used. As a matter of fact, they've never been sharpened. These are the steak knives, and I thought, what better way to show you, because with them was a Wüsthof pull-through sharpener. You guys know how I love pull-through sharpeners. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and take a look at the differences in the edge between a pull-through sharpener and a freehand edge, and maybe we'll look at how you set up and use an Edge Pro. Because you can do what I do with an Edge Pro if you do it properly, but the problem is some people wind up doing the same thing with an Edge Pro that you wind up getting with a pull-through, sort of. All right, so hang on a second, turn the volume down so the dog doesn't bite you, because here comes the intro. So first things first, we have to actually look at what actually does the cutting on a knife. And I've said it before, and you guys have heard me say it before, but a knife is actually just a fancy saw. And the way it works is it has little teeth that are designed, and they are aligned with the direction you cut, which is usually pulling down. You're usually not cutting away from yourself. You're usually pulling it, drawing it this way. And so usually the striations are going from the tip towards the heel in an angle like so. And I'm going to demonstrate that in some pictures. So the reason that I say a pull-through doesn't work, so that's how that works. And I'm going to get this set up so that we can find a way I can demonstrate that. But I'm actually going to get a piece of paper. I'm going to draw it for you. So hang on just a second. All right, guys, I'm going to try and do this the best I can because I'm not an artist. So basically, the way a knife works is you have your edge. And I'm trying to do this here, so let me do it this way. So this is your blade, and here's your edge bevel, and it comes up to your point here. And this is your overall blade. And then on your edge bevel, these serrations should be going this way, from tip to heel, all the way. And what you get is a saw blade effect that cuts as you pull the blade, just like teeth on a saw. And they're really fine, and what you're gonna have is this little serration. If they were going the other way, so this cuts when you pull the blade this way, right? Which is the way most people are gonna be using a knife. It's just the typical way you would use a knife. You're gonna have your item and you're gonna cut through it that way, right? So as you pull the blade, it's gonna cut as the blade goes this direction. From, the travel of the blade is going that way. So, the problem with a pull through, and we'll look at it later, is you don't get those sawtooth serrations. What you get is something else. And we'll look at it, you're gonna get something different. And you're gonna wind up with a smooth, it'll feel sharp for a little bit, but what you wind up with is just a burr that gets formed because all you're doing is cutting the material. And so we're gonna do it here. We're gonna do it here. I'm not gonna try and do it outside. As you can hear, they're doing maintenance in the yard. And I'm gonna show you on this piece of paper what's happening with a pulled through knife sharpener on one of those steak knives, not one of my good knives. We're gonna use one of those steak knives right up there. So let's get started on that. My coffee just got poured. Let's do that. So I have two identical steak knives. One of them is Still gonna keep the factory edge, which is not bad on these Chicago steak knives, actually, these Chicago cutlery steak knives. But we're gonna pull the other one through this Wusthof. Actually, he had 2 of them. So now, what you have here is a coarse blade, which if you look, is just 2 cutters. And then a fine, which is 2 pieces of ceramic. Now he used these. Set that one aside. So, set this down. Oh, it gives me chills. Look, I got goosebumps even doing it. So what we're doing is we're pulling this blade through these 2 carbide bits. Let's see here. Isn't this what they always do in the commercial? Oh, God, it's just a horrible sound. So, now, does it feel sharp? Yeah, it kind of feels sharp. Now, let's see. So, let's pull this off. Now, what that is there is those carbide bits, just like if they were in, that's pieces of metal that they have just cut off of that edge. So, is this a good idea for your edges? Not really. Not really. So basically what we've done is we've taken that and we've run it between 2 sharp cutters. Now, some of you go like, well, Mike, why isn't that bad? Well, what we didn't do, while we may have lined that edge up and formed an edge, what we didn't do at all was form the striations that we're looking for. So we'll save that for a little bit later. We're gonna get some macro shots of this. I will put the macro lenses on this and we'll see what direction those cut marks go. We'll look at the factory edge on this and we'll look at the edge that I'm going to put on one of these steak knives. Actually, no, we'll just look at an edge that I've already put on a knife. I've got a knife laying around here, I'm sure, that has got one of my kitchen knives usually get a, look at this one. We'll probably look at this one. It's got about a 1,000 grit edge on it. And how it should look, what the edge should look like, and what's gonna give you that cutting potential. Because if that, you know, if you're not getting those striations going the right direction, it's not gonna cut through meat and things like that the way you want it to. It just won't. It won't cut through rope, it won't cut through line and things like that. And that's why these pull-throughs, people keep having to use them. Like you see people like, hey, just pull it through, pull it through. You're not gonna get the result you want because it's not the proper alignment of the edge. Yes, you are putting an apex. Yes, you are kind of doing something. The only reason I use these, I don't think we have any intention of ever using these knives, really. I don't think we do. The steak knives maybe, but the thing is, I did that and I can always resharpen these. I can always fix any damage I just did to this. And while they do have that fine ceramic side, you're getting the same thing on that ceramic that you would with this. So let me get a knife that I've sharpened and we're gonna look at them side by side and I'm gonna explain to you what exactly is happening and I'll pull it up macro, we'll get some light somehow. I'll probably figure out a way to get some light over here so we can do it. All right, guys, hang on just a second. All right, guys, I got this set up. I've got my macro lens installed. We're gonna take a look at the factory edge, the pull-through edge, and a quick, now this is a very coarse edge just for demonstration purposes, just so you can see what the striations are supposed to look like. So you can kind of see why it's just not, you need the way the striations are supposed to be so that you can kind of see the difference. So, all right guys, hang on just a second. All right guys, the first one we're gonna look at is the factory edge, which factory edges are done on a belt. They're not hand sharpened. They're always going to look like this because the abrasives are done on a belt. And I'm sorry, it's really hard to get the light on this the right way and get it in focus, but let's see here. There you go. So you can see, there you go. They go straight up and down, not much of an angle to them. They cut okay, but not near as well as if they were to have done them angularly. So let's look at my edge that I put on. Now, like I said, keep in mind, this is going to be a very coarse edge just for demonstration purposes. You see how those angles, now I didn't even get all of the factory edge off. This was done very quickly. But you see how those striations go from the heel to the tip. Heel to the tip, all the way. Oh, this is really hard to capture. There we go. You can see how they go in the angle that I was describing. That's going to give you that cutting motion you want, almost that sawing action to cut through material. But here's the big one. This is the one we wanted to discuss. Here is what you get from a pull through. You don't get any of that. It's just a linear, straight line. There are no striations except for the lines that go all the striations go straight. There's no, you see what I'm saying? I'm trying to capture this for you guys. Can you see how that edge is burred and very, there's no striations whatsoever on that, and it's just a burr. And there's no striations going in any direction. There's a piece of burr. And so there's nothing to add any cutting whatsoever, really. And so basically, there are no real stria or grind lines or ways for that to really bite. They all go linearly from heel to tip. So while the first two have some cutting potential because the little micro serrations, the little cuts, can bite in and catch the sawtooth action, there's really nothing on that third one for it to do anything. It's just kind of slick and it goes linear from heel to tip. So that's why those don't work very well. And that's why if you use one, you find yourself, you're like, man, I got to use that like every time I cook. I got to resharpen that thing and use the pull through. That's why they don't work very well. And that's why I always recommend freehand sharpening. If you learn the technique for freehand sharpening, it comes naturally. It just happens. If you use a fixtured system properly, it happens. The problem is, if you watch the way I sharpen and you watch the way a guy that uses a wicked edge, you wind up putting those striations on exactly the opposite way. And that's why I get a wicked edge, and I get a knife that's sharpened with a wicked edge, and I can immediately tell that somebody used a wicked edge. I look at the striations. You can tell by the direction of the striations. And they feel sharp, but they don't have the cutting potential, and the edge doesn't seem to last as long. The other thing, you can make the exact same mistake with a wicked edge. And I'll show you how. If you hold on just a second, I'll get my system out and I'll show you how. So to get this in the shot, it's gonna look kind of funny because you're gonna just see me like this. But you can actually make the same mistake with the Edge Pro Apex. And I'm gonna show you how. I'm not actually gonna put a stone in it. But the Edge Pro Apex is meant to be used in a fashion where you push. It's designed so that when the knife is, how inconvenient. I don't even have a knife in my hand. I guarantee there's a knife here. We'll just use my little bench knife here. When a knife sits against this stand like this, and the heel of it here is back here, and there's a stone in here, the stone pushes down and moves downward and to the heel, from the heel to the tip. But the problem is, and I've seen a lot of people do it, is they just do this. And all you're doing is moving the stone laterally across the edge. You're not doing anything. You're doing the same thing you're doing with a pull through. Now, you heard me say something about the wicked edge. Let me pull you guys up here since I'm done demonstrating with my Edge Pro. That might be too much, we don't know yet. Let's see. Okay, so when you see a guy using an Edge Pro and the blade is sitting like this, and he's doing that quick motion and he's coming up, well, which way are the striations going? The striations are now going this way. Well, that means that knife's going to cut real well that direction. I don't know a lot of people that cut this way. I don't cut that way. I cut this way, which all reasons, I'm not saying the Edge Pro is not a good system if you take the time to use it properly, which with that system would be to pull the stone down from the heel to the tip, or to come from, really that's the only way to do it. The only way to sharpen is to start at the heel and work from your heel and drag the stone. The only way is to mimic the freehand sharpening action. There's just no other way to do it. That's the only way a knife is going to cut properly. And I know that's it's gonna make a lot of people mad, because I'm saying that I'm not saying the Wicked Edge is not a well thought out system. It gives you a good consistent angle for what it is. The Edge Pro, it's of the two, it gives you a better. I would say that of the three, that of all the systems, I think that the one that I think is the best would, and if given thought back into it, would be that it's the one that Birdshot uses, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. It is the Birdshot, and can't think of it now, but it's like the Edge Pro, but it's got you can flip the blade over, and it's in a vise, as opposed to this where it just sits. So, you know, I don't like fixtured systems that much. Of the ones, the Edge Pro and the other one that you're doing this motion where you're following the natural course that you would be doing if you were freehand sharpening. Those two, I think, are the best. The Wicked Edge, I don't think it mimics freehand sharpening enough, because you're starting from the back of the blade as opposed to the front of the blade. Therein lies its problem. Your stones start their travel from the back of the blade as opposed to the front of the blade. You always want to start, your abrasive should start, because if you're freehand sharpening, you're dragging your blade across the abrasive, not the abrasive across the blade, which you're doing with this, but you're starting from the front of the blade. You should always start from the front of the blade, not the back. You should always start just like when you're cleaning a gun. You should always start with the direction that the blade is going to travel. Just like when you're cleaning a gun, you always clean in the direction that the bullet is going to travel. There you go. So that's my take on it. That's why pull-throughs don't work. That's the problems with some of these fixtured systems. This was just a video I wanted to do. I had some steak knives that were in a set that I don't think we're ever going to use. We keep them just because Joe was a good friend, and I can't. They were given to us. He left them to us in his will. I'm never going to give them away because he was a good friend. So may as well use them to describe to you why pull-throughs are the bad. They're bad, okay? They're like drugs. So you guys take it easy. Send me your knives. Send me your knives. It's been a slow week. It really has been. I've been sitting around thinking of things to do. So I know it's Blade Show week and everything. If you guys go to Blade Show, and you get a knife that historically knives that come from Blade Show kind of have wonky edges because they're in a hurry, send them to me. Send them to me. I might have a Blade Show discount sale where all knives are $25. All knives, all grits, $25 Blade Show sale. So that does not include refinishing and reprofiling, but like just basic things like that. But so, all right, guys, I'm gonna get this cobbled together. I gotta go pick my daughter up from school. You guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Take it easy.